All right, let's rock and roll.
Gina, how different has it been, obviously without, Sant Gray being around, 4-year veteran, just how different has it been?
I always say that when you always know what your contributions were when your absence is felt, and you can feel it. There's no doubt about it. He brings a level of confidence. He brings a level of experience, and he's got such great football IQ. He just has a grip on everything. So there's no way you can't miss his presence. But I'll tell you what, we've had some young guys really step up. Power Eccles has kind of moved over into his spot, and then Amari Campbell's moved over to Power's spot. And we've trained Power some a little bit in the past at both anyway. But his presence, the absence of him being on the field is definitely felt. But our guys have stepped up. They've really had some good days. But he's a great player. And it's not just that he was a great player. He's a great leader in the locker room. So you're going to feel it when he's not there.
For sure. And I wanted to also ask about Power, like kind of you say you cross-trained him a little bit. What are some of those expectations for him as he kind of slides into that other linebacker role? And what kind of differences are there as far as responsibility?
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities. You're just kind of playing on the other side. And when you play linebacker, you have to know what the other guy's doing, right? Because you're going to be doing something usually the opposite, right? So in today's game, because there's so many formations that can make the mic become the will and the will become the mic anyway, you just kind of inherently know what the other guy, is doing. And Power's really smart. So he's kind of that football IQ. He's very much like Celek. And really it was kind of a natural flow for him to be in that position. And we got some more time, but right now it's really worked out well.
Yeah, Power said last week there's really not a whole lot of difference between the two, but I guess he has to make more of the calls now. So how is he handling that? And you say he's an IQ guy, but these guys have been hearing stuff from Cedric for a couple of years. So what's it like now they're hearing it from Power?
I will say this. It's probably a little bit different for the guys in terms of listening to who the calls were coming from. But really and truly, we've always kind of put it on both of those guys to communicate. The big communicators in the defense are the two inside backers and the safeties. So even though it's a new position, Power definitely has had the communication, with the safeties all year long. And now Amari's got to come in and kind of assume what Power was doing. And they've both done a good job with it. So, but it's nothing new for Power. I mean, he gets it. He's a very quick study. So he learns things fast. He comprehends things fast. So it's been a good, 4 or 5 practices getting him acclimated to this. And it's really, obviously, when you switch 2 guys, the drop-off at the position could be there. But he's very talented. He's a guy right now that can play at the next level. So he's just got to kind of assume the role and continue to grow in it.
Sometimes we tend to be a little simplistic and say this is Cedric's defense. If that's so, is this now an opportunity for Power to make it Power's defense?
If you're going to put it in those terms, he's one of the guys that you would say if you're going to make this a player who's the leader, in the locker room of the defense, Power would be the next guy up for sure. But we got several other guys out there that you could really share that same sentiment with, right? But from the point of being in the middle of the defense, communicating to everybody in the front and the back, Power would be the next man up.
Gene, it sounds like Caleb Cost might be able to get out there some too. Obviously, Amari. With the younger guys, who are some of the younger guys you expect to see in the bowl game you're looking forward to seeing, and what is maybe your assessment of how these guys are doing right now?
Yeah, Caleb Cost is going to be a guy that you're going to see more of than you've seen all year. And it's a great opportunity for him, but he gets 3 weeks to get ready, right? So you'll see him. You'll see Trey Miller. I think Trey Miller, we planned on playing Trey Miller more earlier in the year, and then he had some health issues with some injuries. It kind of set him back. Every time it seemed like he was going to move forward, he'd take a step back. So we expect to see him, and we expect to play him a good bit right at the corner spot. So that's great opportunities for him there. As we said, Amari Campbell, who is a guy that we probably should have played more during the year. He's going to get his opportunity. So that's 3 young guys that are all freshmen that you're going to see a good bit of. So they've had good work, and we expect them to play well. It'll be interesting.
Gene, what kind of challenges does West Virginia, just their offense, present?
If you start with running the football, okay, it's running the ball and time of possession, right? So the reason that they have a very creative scheme. They do a lot of good things in their scheme, but they've got 3 really good tailbacks, and they've got a quarterback who is essentially another tailback. So he's, I think, tied as the second leading rusher on the team. So, you got to decide who you want to have the ball on certain things and who you don't. But they're very physical up front. So they do a good job of running the football. They do a good job of play actioning off of that, especially with some deep shots. But their job is ball control, run the ball, make sure that the quarterback gets his touches every game running it. And the other thing he brings to the table is his athletic ability to escape and get outside. So very challenging offense. They're third in the entire country in rush offense at over 230 a game. So you can't do that for 12 games by accident. If that was the case after game 2, you could say, well, are there factors in there? This is a real run team, and they are run first. I mean, that's what they want to do. That's what they cut their teeth on, they're really good at it. So we got a huge challenge, but it all starts with stopping the run.
When we talked to Power last week, he was asked if Amari's ready, and he said immediately, right now he's ready to go today, right this minute. How ready is he to handle the kind of load he's going to get in the game?
Very. I feel very confident in that. He's really kind of beyond his years when it comes to understanding concepts and defenses. He's one of those guys that if he makes a mistake once, he can correct it quick and probably never make it again. And when you show him, he's a guy that really learns concepts. It's not rote memory of like, oh, I'm supposed to be here. Like, he knows why he's supposed to be there. And he's one of those guys that the linebacker position absolutely requires instincts. You have to have great instincts to play that position. When he first came in the spring and really didn't even know where he was fitting or what he was doing, he always was around the football making plays, which is what we saw in high school, because he's got great instincts. So I fully expect him to play really well.
I want to ask about Caleb Cost as well. Back in August, I believe you mentioned him when you were asked some of the newcomers who was standing out. Some of the other guys did too. Can you elaborate more on what he brings to the field and how he can help you at the star position?
He's, again, a very instinctive player. He was a great baseball player in high school, right? So right away you're looking at a guy back there who's got great instincts. He's got great hands, great hand-eye coordination. So if he's around the football, he's usually going to come down with it, just from his baseball, all the baseball he's played. So, but he's tough. He played on a state championship football team. So the more of those guys you can bring in who've been productive and won and come from that environment, who are tough and competitive, that's him. I think in the state championship game last year, he made the pick to win the game, and it was not just your routine, let him throw you the ball. I mean, he had to go up and get it. And so those are kind of the things that he does. If you haven't seen that, go pull it up, because it's an amazing play. But I think those are the instincts that we're talking about, that I think he's, just one of those guys back there that once he learns everything and the instincts pretty much catch up with his knowledge, I think you're going to see a really productive guy.
What does it say?
Go ahead.
What does it say about Miles Murphy that he's choosing to play in the bowl game despite the fact that he's declaring for the draft?
A lot.
Could have opted out.
I'm really proud of Miles. I'm really, really proud of Miles. He played in the last game. He was banged up. In this day and age where you see so many guys opt out, it's really good and refreshing to see a guy that could have. And he said, no, I'm coming back to play. He wanted to play one more game. So, no judgment on anybody that doesn't, but definitely kudos to the guys that do. And I think that's one thing that we have a tendency to do, right? We have a tendency to talk too much about the ones that aren't playing, and we don't talk enough about the ones that are. And he's one of the guys that I'm really proud of, and just the fact that he's going to do this, because he loves football and he loves UNC. I think it's great.
Gene, in a big picture sense, it seems like this offseason will be one where you need to make another jump defensively, and across the second half of the season defensively, it seemed like it got worse. Do you believe the pieces are in place and there's been enough progress made to think that this will be a better defense next year?
Yeah, I think so, without a doubt. I think what we have to do is go back and look at the inconsistencies. If you take the first half of the season, you could point to some really, really good production.
Absolutely.
And you try to compare. Look, there are some things obviously that we know that were very subpar, right, and unacceptable, really. But there were some progress made in some certain areas. When you look about sacks compared to the year before, when you look at takeaways from the year before, so TFLs from the year before. So there were some things that I think we got better at. I think what we're going to do is have to look, what is the next step in the name of consistency to be able to finish out a season after game 6 or 7. And we weren't productive. So we got to look at that. We got to look at everything. And then, but are the pieces in place? Yes, I believe they are. Obviously, we need to continue to grow, bring some players in that fit what we're doing. But disappointing the last half of the season, and we got to get it fixed.
We haven't talked to Max since the regular season ended. Do you, in terms of your job, do you expect to be back next year, and do you believe you should be back next year?
Yeah, it's a fair question. Just for me, I'm probably different than almost every coach maybe in America, or at least there's a few that are in my spot. I'm very blessed to be able to look at every season, and after every season decide, what is the best for me, what is the best for the university, what is the best for everybody, and then the universities have to do the same thing. They have to look at the overall picture, right? And they got to decide what's best for them. So to answer your question, I don't know all of what will happen at the end. We know that this is a big man sport, right? So everybody's got to assess and evaluate, and in the end, we will come up with whatever is the best for the university. We'll come up with whatever is the best for this program, and it's all good. One way or the other, it's all good. But we got great kids here. I think we got a great future here, and we'll attack all of that stuff after the last game, and we'll do what's best for the university.
Is your personal preference to be back here next year?
Yes. But
And when you get to the end of a season, you guys had that little period off, and I know you were out recruiting. There was a lot of recruiting going on. Do you do any assessing of yourself then, or do you wait until after the bowl game to get the full picture?
you always do. I mean, that's an ongoing process, right? But the bottom line is when everything finally stops and you can go back and really gather up all the facts and look at everything, then you assess and you do what's best again, like for everybody. So, but when everything ends is when kind of everything slows down, and then there's just an assessment of the entire program, right? I've been a head coach, so I know how it works. So that's when all of the pieces come together. You decide what the best thing is, and then everybody moves on.
To kind of go off that a little bit, I mean, obviously, yeah, it's kind of a busy period because I
call
imagine
this one the
there's
last one.
obviously, there's a lot of kind of recruiting that goes on and just everything like that. Have you had a chance to even kind of meet with Mac one-on-one, or is that a post-bowl game thing, or like have you had a chance to meet with him at all?
Yeah, we have talked. We've definitely had just not near the in-depth, detailed talks that we will. You got to remember, after the last game, everybody scatters and everybody's recruiting and everybody's gone and things of that nature. So, we'll have some more in-depth talks after this game, and we'll definitely come up with whatever we think is the best thing for everybody, for sure.
All right.
Good.
Thanks, Chief.
All right, guys.